What sticks out the most? What was the what was the memory that is most front of mind when you reflect on that 4 month period?
I want to give a dose of the good. There were great things that happened. I had celebrated various New Year's festivals, went to a big Tibetan festival, um, made loads and loads of friends, just had lots of good times, reached lots of summits in difficult situations. But really, the one story that I always come back to, and that is front and center of my mind in that experience, is being detained in Uzbekistan as as a suspected drug trafficker. And that was, that was an interesting challenge to say the least. So to give a little bit of context on that one. So Uzbekistan at that time, very very strict authoritarian regime, known as the second most restrictive country behind North Korea in terms of the freedoms of its people, police state. And I've been warned, traveling through Central Asia, the Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, I've been warned by people, just be careful in Uzbekistan. And as I went across the border late at night from Tajikistan, that's where everything changed. At this point, I was 2 months deep into well, 2.5 months deep. I'd already had lots of other crazy incidents. I've been interrogated numerous times in China, almost hit by an avalanche in Kazakhstan, stuck in a landmine jungle in Laos. And so, I thought, well, nothing can stop me now, surely. But yeah, went to cross into Uzbekistan, and immediately as I crossed the border, my bag was taken from me. Every item was taken out, full bag search. They wanted my phone, laptop, camera, searched through all the files, documents I had, full body search. By the end of this, they found in my first aid kit some cocodamol tablets, which I was taking for a knee problem at the time. Unbeknown to me, they're classified as an illegal narcotic in Uzbekistan and many other countries, it turns out, because it contains opium derived from heroin, just north of Afghanistan, which produces 95% of the world's heroin. So this is like drug central. It turns out the majority of drugs trafficking heads up through Central Asia into Russia and out across the world. So they are very, very hot on it. And as soon as they found that, I was effectively collared and told that I was a drug trafficker. Hauled away for a 4 hour interrogation, which it went on till midnight. And at the end of this, I've been photographed, very sort of brutally interrogated, and then I was presented with these papers all written in Russian. And I looked at these things, having no idea what they said. They barely spoke English. I knew a tiny few words in Russian, and they said, "Look, we want you to sign these papers, and it'll be a lot better for you." And I'm looking at these things, just thinking, "There's no way I'm going to sign these papers." What I want to do. And this was, step one of trying to gain control over this crazy situation. Is I want to speak to the embassy. I want to speak to the British embassy, get some assistance here. I knew that I had a right to speak to the embassy. So spent the night there at the border post. Next morning, they said, okay, here's the phone. You got 3 minutes, one phone call, go ahead. So I phoned the British embassy. This was late March 2016. And as the phone was picked up, I just received this message saying, "Hello, it's Good Friday. The British Embassy will be closed until next Tuesday. Goodbye." And so there I was, just completely back to square one. No phone signal, no Wi-Fi, no way of contacting the outside world effectively. And so I was completely on my own in that situation, and these thoughts are going through my head of just being, spending a long time in some rotten Uzbek jail. Um, and I mean, what happened next was they took me down to Termez, which is a city on the Afghan border. They took blood samples, urine samples, seeing if I still had this drug in my system. They gave me a lawyer, an interpreter, and ultimately the options were, my palette of options were 30 days in jail or a $500 fine. Well, in fact, they said $1,000. I negotiated that down. And for anyone wondering, is this just a backhander? No, the chance of a backhander had long since gone, and I'd sort of subtly explored that option at the border, and it was it was not taken advantage of by them. So This was like, through the courts. And so, yeah, the issue I had, actually, I couldn't get my hands on the $500. I had few, some dollars in cash, but they didn't accept Visa or MasterCard in Uzbekistan. So it meant an awkward phone call back home. They let me use the phone one more time. My dad transferred, Western Union transferred some cash. Took me a few days to get it. Meanwhile, I'm being held under house arrest in this grimy hotel. I've got, yeah, very suspicious, shifty characters coming in plain clothes who are asking all kinds of questions, being generally very hostile. And ultimately, I got my hands on this cash and we transferred it into Uzbek money. And the funny thing is, like in Uzbekistan, the currency, the smallest the biggest denomination is worth about 20p. So $500 worth is literally a bag full of cash. So I was then driven with literally a carrier bag full of cash out to what turned out to be an ex-KGB compound on the outskirts of the city, on the Afghan border. And it was just this mad situation. And they sent me in there, and it took them ages to count all this money. Everyone's very, very serious. It's no fun and games in there for sure. And got out of there eventually. Was given my passport back, and the guy said to me, "Okay, yeah, you can leave the country. You can leave Uzbekistan and go back home." This is the first he'd mentioned of that, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I've been traveling 2.5 months. I've got through all these hardships. I do not intend to go home. Like, I'm only halfway through. There's no way I'm going home right now. And so, yeah, I decided to take a risk at that point, and I've made friends with the interpreter. That was, he was the one person I kind of latched onto as a possible ally in the situation, having no contact with the outside world. And so I got in the taxi with him. He was meant to take me to the airport. He was under strict orders, but I had a quiet word with him and said, "Look, I don't want to go to the airport. I want to go to the mountains. I want to go and climb a mountain in Uzbekistan and then carry on my journey." I told him all about it, and he decided to help me out. So yeah, was in a taxi off up into the mountains, and I thought, right, okay, priority number one, I need to tell my family that I'm not banged up in some Uzbek jail here. So searched around the town, looking for phone signal, looking for Wi-Fi. Yeah, nothing of the kind. Bumped into this tough group of local boxers, black eyes, gold teeth, and they said to me, "Look, they spoke a bit of English. They said there's no phone signal out here. There's no contact with the outside world, but we'll look after you." And I thought, well, they look like trustworthy guys, so I'll go along with them. But it turned out to be really, I mean, quite interesting because they owned a bar in the city, in the village. Took me for a few beers. We went for a drive around the village and up to a viewpoint. And but a couple of instances in that night, I noticed. Well, in fact, I was approached by police officers on two occasions, and actually pulled out the bar. And later at the viewpoint, the police officer came, thorough questioning, papers taken, all the rest of it. Next day, went and climbed a mountain, came back down late at night. Been a long, like 14 hours on the mountain, and as I got back to my where I was staying, this little hotel, approached, and there the police officer was spying through my bedroom window. And I thought, okay, I'm being watched here. They're fully just onto me, and so I thought, all right, I need to get the hell out of this place. And yeah, I'd never before experienced anything like that, where just this deep sense of paranoia was just swimming through my system.